Alabama, if you have not noticed, the transition from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer has been less than smooth already. Not anything against DeBoer, but they are bleeding players left and right into the transfer portal. Some of the household names that have entered so far: Caden Proctor, the freshman offensive tackle; Caleb Downs commits to Ohio State out of the transfer portal. One of the biggest, who the coaches on Alabama's staff last year said was the best player on the team as a freshman. Guys left and right, they've lost upwards of 20 players to this
point. It was 30 this week when I saw
30. Yeah, up to 30 players out of the transfer portal. What is going on at Alabama? First of all, is this anything more than the usual coach turnover, or is it just mostly explained away by losing Nick Saban?
It's kind of a combination. Yes, there's going to be coaching turnover anytime there's a new guy taking over your program, but you did just lose the greatest football coach that's ever coached the game. And so there's a lot of players that showed up to this program with an expectation, right? They were expecting that they were going to be one of the, several first round draft picks that Saban's put out, right? They were saying, Saban's put out this many draft picks, and I want to be the next one of those, right? And so, for a lot of these guys, they show up and that's the promise. And, Kalen DeBoer is a great coach. There's no questioning that. You coach a national championship game, you're a great coach. But that's not Nick Saban. He hasn't put that much talent in the NFL. He hasn't had the time to, frankly. He hasn't coached as long as Saban has at as big of a program as Saban has, and he hasn't had that chance. And so, when I think about this whole situation in Alabama, I'm going to compare it to, an in-conference, team that we get a lot of comments about, especially on Twitter and everything else. It's Texas A&M, right? They lose their head coach that, they promised a lot of players, a lot of stuff. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher is nowhere near the caliber Nick Saban is, but he is a head coach that promised a lot of things and a lot of development to some high-profile players, and they lost 23 guys to the portal. The stark difference right now between what Elko's done in a couple of months so far on the job versus what DeBoer has been able to do just in the week is Elko's brought in 23 to replace his 23. Right now, Bama's only got 4 coming in. And so it's not sky is falling time for Alabama, and we're not there yet. You lost some talented players. Don't get me wrong. You lost some talented players. And a lot of the talent that you may have otherwise had has already found a destination in the transfer portal, but there are still good players in the transfer portal that you can go find to fill out your roster. It's just going to be on DeBoer finding a way to fill that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you compare it to Mike Elko. Elko's had a few months on the job, gotten to have some big visit weekends. DeBoer will catch up, and I think he will figure it out. But to say that the fan base is getting a little restless down there in Tuscaloosa, I think is an understatement. And this is part of what I was talking about a couple episodes ago. You got to let the man have some time, right? You have to let him do his job. You can't freak out over this, brief wave. And you got to be okay with him, trusting the process with Kalen DeBoer. Because, some of the stuff I've seen on social media from Alabama fans are just freaking out or saying that the NCAA needs to change the rules is just laughable. Like, welcome to what the rest of college football has had to experience for the last 16, 17 years, Alabama fans. You don't have the cheat code anymore. You're going to have to live life like the rest of us. And it's a little difficult to see players that you're really excited about go to another program. That's life for all 130 plus other FBS schools at this point.
Right. Well, and, I started to feel bad kind of reading through some of the Bama comments and the message boards and everything else because, you're looking at a fan base that hasn't really had to go through this in a long time. And they're going through it and they're saying, it's tough. They lose their quarterback that just signed, right? And he's supposed to be the future. He's the number 1 quarterback in this class. He hits the portal like 2 weeks in because, of course he does. You're not going to play for Saban. You're going to go play for somebody else. And I respect that. I have no issue with that. As a player, you signed a contract and it was immediately broken, basically. And again, nothing wrong. You're allowed to change a coaching job and all that, right? And so I kind of feel for the fans, and I was starting to feel bad for them. And then I remembered, oh, wait, this is the fan base that, has got 6 natties in the last, couple decades. And, I have no sympathy for you, Alabama fans. I have zero sympathy for you. You can grow up. Okay. You can deal with the fact that you're going through the same stuff that all of us are going through. Okay, all of us have to watch our favorite players get poached by somebody else at every single program, right? If you're an A&M fan, you're mad that Ole Miss poached Walter Nolan. But if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're mad that They took Quinshon Judkins and he took off for Ohio State. And you know, I know that everyone's going to justify with character concern. Oh, Quinshon wasn't that good. Oh, well, Walt, he wasn't. Everyone's going to do that to every player that walks out the door. You're seeing it with Bama fans. They're complaining that Caden Proctor's soft and he doesn't want to compete. Caden Proctor ain't soft. That's a really good offensive tackle. He went to Iowa for a reason, and I was going to have a solid offensive line with Proctor anchoring the whole thing. So, like, Bama fans, welcome to college football. You don't get to just leave halfway through the football game and still expect that your team's going to make the natty. You're going to get to stay. You're going to have to yell in the fourth quarter. You're going to have to, you know, go through some nail biters, and it's not a foregone conclusion you're going to win your conference anymore. So I want to feel bad for you, but I don't.
And I'm going to be just one more thing on that. I'm going to be so frustrated if the NCAA finally steps in because Alabama is complaining. Like, I can just see that happening right now, and I'm pre-frustrated about that possibly.
That's a good word. That's a good word.
Gracious him! How about that?